Hi, Peter. My name's Chris Wareheim. I'm going to be your coach today. Thanks for sending in your video to Racers 360, and looking forward to hopefully finding a little bit of time here for you, at the Lightning Circuit at New Jersey Motorsports Park. So I watched the entire video through. We'll work on this kind of first lap, which I think is your best lap. To be honest, you have a very, very good fun set of fundamentals. I like what I'm seeing. There is not a massive amount of time to be gained, especially at this track. You're pretty close to the limit there. So there are a few things that I see that we could maybe work on a little bit of our consistency, and a few things I want you to try the next time you're out at New Jersey Motorsports Park, just to see if there is time to be gained in certain sections by just changing maybe how we think of a corner. Not necessarily, I think your basic lines and your apexes and using the track, kind of the basic fundamentals and where you're picking up the throttle is spot on. Now we can experiment with maybe some more advanced kind of thinking to see if there is time to be gained. I haven't driven your specific car exactly, but I do have about a decade experience with Porsches and pretty much driving every single Porsche there is out there on the market, from pretty much from the 996s on. So I do have a little bit of information. I think I can maybe help you find maybe a little bit of time, but like I said, I mean, the times you're turning in this car at this track is pretty darn quick, to be honest. So let's get going on the lap and see if we can find a little bit of time here. So there is a little bit of wind noise, so I'll probably keep the volume on maybe a little bit lower, just so we can maybe mitigate some of that wind noise. I would say if there's anytime you do maybe another setup with the camera, see if we can find a way to maybe mitigate the wind noise and see if we can kind of pick up a little bit more of the engine note without any data necessarily. I know you do. This is a pretty cool system that you have that is giving us a little bit more information than just the raw video, but we do like to kind of be able to hear that throttle application. That kind of helps a little bit because sometimes the GPS isn't exactly right. So heading into turn one here, really good on the brakes. Good late apex. I always tend to try to make my apex here kind of right at the end of the curbing like you're doing. You're a little bit before that, which I'm okay with because you are using the curbing. Some laps you use a little bit more than others. This is probably the most I would use, and you can see as you come off of it, it kind of upsets the car a little bit. Not a whole lot, but it is a little bit. So that may delay your throttle application a little bit. The one thing you could experiment with is just a little bit slightly later turn. I'm not talking about a lot. I'm talking like if you're turning in at the cone, maybe there. So we're talking, 5 feet, maybe even slightly less than that. And the only reason why I say that is you just might have the car a little bit better angled to get a little bit better shot out down this little short chute. That's it. It's something to try. So here, this is something that I tend to like to do specifically with Porsches. In a corner like this, where there is no exit speed, right? It's a double right-hand corner, kind of double apex. You got to keep it to the right on the second apex to set up for the left. I like to experiment with seeing what if I take a little bit narrower line, really carry the speed, not really worry about getting back to throttle so much here, but kind of taking a little bit narrower line through the center. We'll rewind here. So instead of coming, say, left side all the way out to the curb, maybe being, say, 2 feet off the curb here. And if I can just roll more speed around the entire section. So I'll end up taking a slightly narrower line. I'll roll a little bit more entry speed here, pick up the throttle, a little maintenance throttle. And now I'm just trying to carry as much speed on the limit as possible through the center. And I'll still end up here, but I'm just trying to roll more through the center. I'm not worried about necessarily getting set up so much for that second apex. I'm just trying to roll as much through the center. So like I said, I'm not sure if you're able to do that because I haven't driven your car specifically, but that is something for you to try, is to see if I can just roll more through the entire center of that double right-hander, because you don't have to worry about this exit here for the second part of this right, because there is no straightaway here, right? You have to make a speed adjustment here to get onto the straightaway. I think you're doing a great job through this section. Good use of the curb, getting down to that apex. You're lined up great here. Sounds like you're getting on the throttle at the right point. The one thing I think where we can gain some speed here, and it's a little bit similar to that section we were just in. Can we roll more through this section? So one thing you think about here too, can I roll more over this hill? Even turn in maybe just a hair earlier here. Start opening my hands up a little bit sooner over the crest and use a little bit more track on the exit here. So I want you kind of be a little bit wider at this point. Not a lot, 2-3 feet wider. A little open up that kind of, you know, you're kind of always bending the car here to that curbing. So because you're already still turning, you can never really get your hand straight. Are you able to kind of have that same arc, but a little bit wider? Go back a little bit. So right about here, you know, we're not going to get out to that curbing, but can I be just another 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 feet wider? I think that's probably a little bit too much. 2, 3, 4 feet wider at this point in the corner, which is going to come from you carrying more speed over that crest. I think you would be able to do that, and that'll just translate into a little bit more speed down this straightaway here. Good on the brakes here, get your downshift done, get down that curbing, good exit here. I will say, just to kind of zoom it back after watching the laps, there's a few times where you just, I think, try to brake a hair too deep here some laps, and you carry just a little bit too much speed at turn in, and maybe you're just having to hold that brake a little bit too long, and you just start to just get a little bit of that car to unsettle on you, and then you have to overslow the apex to keep the car settled and to still hit your apex. That's kind of like where I see on the other laps where the time lost is we just try to kind of these kind of mid to lower speed corners, we try to almost brake a hair too late or try to carry a little bit too much speed in. Like I said, without being able to see your actual brake trace and throttle trace, I can't tell you specifically exactly what's happening, but I can give you a pretty good understanding of what it looks like, just because I can see that there's a lap, I think 2 laps from now, where coming in right about this point, you're having to catch the car just a little bit. And that generally is caused by just carrying a little bit too much speed in. You're having to hold the brake, you're overloading that front, and then as you release the brake, it's just a little bit too much rotation there. You do a great job here. Really smooth with your hands, which is what I like to see. Now, coming through the carousel here, I think we do a good job. The only thing I would like to try differently is I never, in a banked corner, I never like going up the banking and coming back down the banking. I always like to either try to follow that banking, that kind of natural arc of the banking, or be slightly higher and kind of turn into the banking a little bit. This corner specifically, you can't do. You got to kind of have that narrower entry in like you're doing. But I definitely don't like coming up the hill and coming back down. I think you lose a lot of time in the center here. I think we can just do a better job of having more of a natural arc through the carousel here. So let me just zoom back a little bit. And maybe we can be just a half a car wider on the entry. So right here, maybe we could just be half a car wider, not a lot. I do like that you're getting your hand straight so you can brake late here. This is another corner where I do see there's times where we brake a little bit too late, and we just have to keep holding that brake. We have to keep slowing that car down as we're kind of going up the banking a little bit. Obviously, there's not a ton of banking here, but there is a little bit, right? So I'd like to see if we can have more of a natural arc through here. So if we just zoom back a little bit, use my annotation here. You know, right now, this is the center of the car. Just like it to be just a little bit here, just to get a little bit better arc in. And the reason for that is we'll be able to roll more through the center, but we won't really have to give up where we're picking up the throttle to get that, because I know you're really trying to get a good run down that front straightaway. Yeah, I'd like to see us roll more through the center, and I do think we can maybe begin that kind of better throttle application or more progressive throttle application sooner, just a little bit further back here. I'd like us to really start getting into it where it doesn't feel or sound like we're really getting after it till about the apex cone. And I think we can pick it up a little bit sooner. A corner like this is all about, you know, not necessarily how soon I can get back to full throttle, but making sure that that minimum speed doesn't drop too much. So if you were to look at this on like a data trace, what I would look for currently, what it kind of looks like is comes down, right? Kind of levels out, and then it ramps up. I'd like to see it in this kind of in this green where you maybe don't overcharge the entry as much, but we float more through the middle. We can maintain more in the middle. So the big gain is in the middle of the corner. But because we're still getting in the middle of the corner, it's a long duration corner, we still get that rotation. We're still on the right line middle to exit. Oops. I'll exit with similar speed, not less, the similar, even maybe sometimes more, but we gain a lot in the middle. Okay. And that's where that big gain is going to be, because it's such a long duration corner. You're going to be able to gain that time. And that could be a couple tenths of a second there just in the middle of the corner. Like I said, you're not going to gain, you're not going to lose any on the exit. If anything, you could gain a little on the exit too, if we're able to start picking up the throttle a little bit sooner here, like we talked about. Because we look on the exit here, it's pretty smooth sailing on the exit. You're not really fighting the car at all. Not that we want to, but it does seem like we have more room and more grip to where that car can carry a little bit more speed out to the exit. Boom. And then 112.9, I think this is. So like I said, you know, great baseline. I just think there's a few areas where we can try to roll a little bit more center speed. If you really boil it down, a little bit more center speed in those sections, and I'll in the note section kind of write that down so you can print it out, have a look, and I'll have a couple goals in the goal list that you can go through for the next time that you hit the track. But best of luck the next time you're out on track. Give those couple tips I gave you a shot, and I think you can find a little bit of time here. But like I said, there's not a whole lot of time. There's a lot of videos that we'll get with people that are a little bit more on the novice side. you know, that it's pretty easy for them to find a, you know, a second or 2 seconds just by fixing, you know, a couple things. For you here, obviously it's a shorter lap, so there isn't as much time to be gained normally. But like I said, you're pretty close to the limit. I think you can get maybe a little bit more comfortable with that car moving underneath you a little bit in those kind of mid to high speed sections. But just try that different line that I'm talking about in the double right-hander. Work on not overdriving the entry when you're looking for more time. Really try to see if we can get off that brake pedal and roll more center speed instead of trying to brake so deep where you have to hold the brake really long and then you feel like you have to really come off of it. To keep that center speed, that really unsettles the car. So those are my tips for the next time out.